After one, the wedding invitation arrived with a sentence printed under the gold letters. "Come watch the woman who gave me a child take your place." Clara Whitmore stood in the doorway of her small sunlit kitchen, holding the ivory envelope between two fingers as if it had been dipped in poison. For a moment, she only stared. The paper was thick, expensive, edged in gold. The kind of invitation that wanted to be photographed before it was opened. At the top, in elegant black script, it announced the marriage of Nathaniel Cross and Brielle Astor at Ashbourne Manor. Nathaniel Cross. Her ex-husband. Brielle Astor. The woman who had been sitting at Clara's dining table the night Clara found her suitcase outside in the rain. Clara read the line again. "Come watch the woman who gave me a child take your place." Behind her, 3 toddlers were arguing over a wooden train set in the living room. Noah had stolen the red carriage. Oliver was trying to negotiate with the solemn intensity of a tiny lawyer. Lily sat in the middle, clutching the blue engine against her chest, watching both brothers like a queen deciding which kingdom deserved mercy. Clara pressed one hand to the kitchen counter. The invitation did not hurt the way Nathaniel had hoped. That surprised her. 2 years ago, it would have broken her. 2 years ago, she would have read those words and folded in half around the old wound. 11 years of marriage, 7 failed fertility treatments, a mother-in-law who counted her menstrual cycles like unpaid debts, a husband who learned to sigh before touching her. But today, standing in a house Nathaniel had never seen, with 3 children laughing in the next room and sunlight warming the floor, Clara felt something different. Not pain, recognition. The invitation was not power. It was panic dressed in calligraphy. A soft footstep sounded behind her. Dr. Julian Vale entered the kitchen, sleeves rolled to his elbows, dark hair still damp from his shower, his expression changing the moment he saw her face. "What happened?" Clara handed him the card. Julian read it once. His jaw tightened. He read it again, slower, as if giving cruelty a chance to become less stupid on the second attempt. "It did not. He sent this to your home," Julian said. "Yes. To the mother of his children." Clara looked toward the living room. "He does not know that part." Julian's eyes lifted to hers. For 2 years, he had never pushed her to tell Nathaniel. He had been there the night the triplets were born. He had held her hand when her blood pressure dropped. He had stood beside the incubators whispering to 3 tiny babies that their mother was the strongest person he had ever met. But he had never confused love with ownership. He had never said, "Tell him." He had only asked, "What do you need?" Now Clara took the invitation back and turned it over. On the back, someone had handwritten a second line. "Brielle is already showing. Try not to make a scene." That handwriting was not Nathaniel's. It was his mother's. Evangeline Cross had always preferred knives with polished handles. Clara smiled. It was small and cold enough that Julian noticed. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Clara looked down at the invitation. Ashbourne Manor. The Cross family's ancestral estate. The place where Evangeline had once told Clara that barren women should be grateful when respectable families kept them. The place Nathaniel had inherited but never truly owned, because the estate's debt had been quietly purchased 18 months ago by the Whitmore Foundation. The family office Clara had only discovered after being thrown out of that very gate. Nathaniel did not know. Evangeline did not know. Brielle did not know. They thought they were inviting a discarded woman to watch her replacement walk through the roses. They had no idea they were inviting the woman who held the mortgage, the medical records, the divorce timeline, and the truth about the 3 children playing on her living room floor. Clara set the invitation on the counter. Then she turned toward the living room. "Noah," she called gently. "Oliver." "Lily." 3 small faces looked up. Clara had come home with a pregnancy report in her coat pocket, and hope trembling so violently inside her that she could barely breathe. It was raining that evening. Not dramatic rain. Not the kind that arrived with thunder and begged to be remembered. Just a cold, steady November rain that darkened the stone steps of Ashbourne Manor and soaked through the handles of the suitcase waiting outside the front door. Her suitcase. Clara stopped at the bottom of the steps. For a few seconds, her mind refused to understand what her eyes had already seen. The navy suitcase leaned against the iron railing. A cream folder sat on top, protected from the rain by a clear plastic sleeve. Her name was written across it in Evangeline Cross's careful hand. Clara Whitmore Cross. Not Mrs. Nathaniel Cross. Not Clara. A legal name. A name meant for documents, dismissals, signatures. Through the tall windows beside the door, warm light spilled onto the wet gravel. She could see movement inside the entrance hall. Nathaniel stood near the fireplace in a charcoal sweater, one hand holding a glass of wine. Brielle Astor was beside him, barefoot on Clara's rug, wearing Clara's pale silk robe. Evangeline stood near the stairs, pearls at her throat, posture perfect, watching the scene with the calm satisfaction of a woman who had finally replaced a defective part. Clara's hand moved to her stomach. That morning, Dr. Julian Vale had looked at the blood results and smiled. "Clara," he had said, voice quiet with the care of someone who understood what hope cost. "You are pregnant." She had not believed him. After 11 years, 5 failed IVF rounds, 2 miscarriages so early Nathaniel had refused to count them, and one doctor who told her to consider accepting her limits, Clara had learned not to trust miracle-shaped sentences. Julian had turned the monitor toward her. "Not only pregnant," he said. "Your hormone levels are unusually high. We need to monitor closely. There may be more than one embryo." More than one. Clara had laughed and cried at the same time, a broken sound that seemed to come from someone younger. She had planned every word on the ride home. "Nathaniel, I know things have been hard. Nathaniel, I know we stopped hoping. Nathaniel, we're going to be parents." She had imagined his face softening. She had imagined his arms around her. She had imagined Evangeline's pride finally turning warm. Then she saw the suitcase. The front door opened before she reached it. Evangeline stepped out first, carrying a black umbrella. She did not offer it to Clara. "Good," she said. "You are home." Clara looked past her. Nathaniel came to the doorway. He did not step into the rain. Brielle remained behind him, her hand resting lightly on the doorframe, like a woman already learning the shape of her new house. "Nathaniel," Clara said. Her voice sounded far away. He looked tired. Not guilty. Tired. That hurt more than anger would have. "We need to end this cleanly," he said. Clara stared at him. 11 years of marriage, and he had chosen the phrase "end this cleanly." Evangeline lifted the folder from the suitcase. "The divorce papers are inside. Your settlement is generous, considering the circumstances." "What circumstances?" Clara asked. Evangeline's mouth tightened. "Do not force us to be vulgar." Brielle stepped closer, robe belt tied loosely at her waist. She was 28, blonde, polished, the daughter of an old banking family. Clara had seen her once before at a charity dinner, laughing too hard at Nathaniel's jokes. Nathaniel rubbed his forehead. "Clara, please do not make this harder." There it was. The sentence men used when they had already done the cruel thing and wanted the injured person to manage the noise. Clara looked at Brielle, then at the robe, then back at Nathaniel. "You moved her into our house." Evangeline's eyes flashed. "This house belongs to the Cross family." "It was my home." "It was an arrangement," Evangeline said. "One that failed." Clara felt the pregnancy report inside her coat pocket, folded twice, warm from her body. She could take it out. She could show them. She could say the sentence that would split this entire scene open. "I am pregnant. I am carrying your child. Maybe your children." Her fingers curled around the edge of the paper. Nathaniel looked at the movement, then away. That was when Clara understood. He had already left her before he put the suitcase outside. He had left her every time he let his mother count her failures at dinner. Every time he looked disappointed after a doctor's appointment. Every time he turned Brielle from a guest into a secret and a secret into a plan. If she showed the report now, they would not see her. They would see a claim, a complication, a womb suddenly useful again. Evangeline would seize control before Clara finished speaking. Nathaniel would mistake shock for love. Brielle would become the tragic woman who almost won. Clara's hand left the report. She looked at Nathaniel one last time. "Did you know about this?" she asked. He swallowed. "Mother and I discussed the timing." "The timing?" Clara nodded slowly. The rain had soaked through her shoes. Water ran down the side of the suitcase. Somewhere inside the house, a clock struck 7. Brielle lowered her eyes, but Clara saw the faint curve at the corner of her mouth. That smile changed everything. Clara stepped forward, took the folder from Evangeline's hand, and placed it inside her bag beside the pregnancy report. Then she picked up the suitcase. Nathaniel frowned. "Where will you go?" Clara looked at him. For 11 years, she had tried to be enough for a man who let his mother decide what enough meant. Now, with 3 possible heartbeats inside her, she felt a strange calm settle over her. "Somewhere no one leaves me in the rain," she said. She turned and walked down the steps. No lights disappeared behind the trees. The road from Ashbourne Manor curved through private woodland before reaching the village. Cars rarely passed after dark. The suitcase wheels caught in gravel, then mud, then gravel again. Rain slid down Clara's neck and under the collar of her coat. She did not cry. She was afraid that if she started, she would not stop. At the bottom of the hill, near a closed flower shop, she finally set the suitcase upright and leaned against the window. Her reflection stared back, dark hair plastered to her cheeks, pale lips, gray eyes too wide, one hand pressed to her stomach. Pregnant, divorced, homeless, all in the same day. A black Bentley slowed beside the curb. Clara straightened instinctively. The rear window lowered. An older man looked out at her, silver-haired, sharp-featured, with the kind of stillness money could not buy unless it had first survived grief. "Miss," he said, "are you hurt?" Clara almost said no. It was automatic. The answer women gave when the damage had no visible blood. Then her body betrayed her. Her chin trembled once. The man opened the door and stepped out with an umbrella. "I am Adrian Whitmore," he said. "May I call someone for you?" "Whitmore." Clara blinked through the rain. "My maiden name is Whitmore." The man paused. His eyes moved over her face, searching. Then something in him changed. "What was your father's name?" Clara's throat tightened. "Edward Whitmore." The umbrella dipped slightly. For one impossible second, the rain seemed to go quiet. "Edward had a daughter named Clara," he said. She nodded. The old man closed his eyes. "Oh my God!" Clara did not understand until he reached for her suitcase himself. "Your father was my brother." Her breath caught. "My father told me his brother died. He thought I did." Adrian's voice was rough now. "And by the time I returned, your mother had moved, your father was ill, and every letter I sent came back. I hired people. I searched. Then I was told you had married into the Cross family and wanted no contact with the Whitmore name." Clara let out a small, broken laugh. "Of course. Evangeline. The Cross family had never liked loose ends, especially wealthy ones." Adrian looked toward the road leading back to Ashbourne Manor. His expression hardened with an old man's quiet fury. "Did they do this?" Clara could not answer. She did not need to. Adrian opened the car door. "Come home," he said. Clara looked at him, then at the suitcase, then at the road behind her. Home. The word felt too large for the night. "I do not know you," she whispered. "No," he said, "but I knew your father, and I have spent 20 years regretting that I could not find his child. Let me at least get you warm." Clara hesitated. Then the babies, tiny and secret inside her, made the decision for her. She got into the car. Adrian did not ask questions during the drive. He turned the heat higher, placed a wool blanket over her knees, and called someone named Julian. "I need you at the house," he said. "Now. And bring your medical bag." Clara turned her head. "Julian?" "My son," Adrian said. The car climbed through iron gates into a private estate overlooking the river. Whitmore House was not flashy. It did not need to be. Pale stone, tall windows, old trees, warm light. The kind of place that had been held for generations by people who did not have to prove they belonged anywhere. At the door stood Dr. Julian Vale. Clara froze. He froze too. "Mrs. Cross." Adrian looked between them. "You know each other?" Julian's face shifted from surprise to concern. His eyes dropped briefly to her soaked coat, her shaking hands, the suitcase behind the driver. "She is my patient," he said. Clara swallowed. "You are his son?" "Adopted," Julian said gently. "But yes." Adrian took Clara's hand. "Then perhaps fate is less lazy than I thought." That night, Julian checked her blood pressure, temperature, and pulse. He asked careful questions. He did not ask about Nathaniel until Clara mentioned the suitcase. Then his jaw tightened in a way he tried to hide. "The pregnancy is still early," he said. "You need rest. No stress if we can avoid it." Clara laughed once. Julian looked up. "I know," he said softly, "but we will begin with rest anyway." "We." The word reached her before she could defend against it. Adrian gave her a guest room overlooking the garden. Someone brought dry clothes, tea, toast, and a hot water bottle. Clara sat on the edge of the bed while the house moved around her with quiet competence. No one demanded gratitude. No one called her broken. No one asked what she had failed to provide. Before midnight, Adrian knocked once and entered only after she answered. He carried a leather box. "This belonged to your father," he said. Inside were photographs, letters, and a signet ring Clara remembered from childhood. Her father had worn it on his right hand when he taught her to ride a bicycle. She touched the ring and finally cried. Adrian sat beside her, not too close. "Your father left everything in trust," he said. "Your mother died before the paperwork was completed. After Edward passed, The Cross family's solicitor claimed you had no interest in reopening old matters. I should have pushed harder. Clara looked at him through tears. What everything? Adrian's expression softened. The Whitmore Foundation. Shipping holdings. 2 hotels. A medical research institute. Several real estate portfolios. He paused. And rather recently, a large portion of Ashbourne Manor's debt. Clara stared at him. What? Adrian's mouth tightened. The Cross family has been quietly drowning for years. We purchased the debt through an intermediary 18 months ago. I did not know you were connected to them then. Clara looked toward the rain-dark window. Ashbourne Manor. The house where she had been told she was lucky to be tolerated. The house that was already, in a way Nathaniel had never understood, standing on Whitmore money. Adrian closed the box. Rest tonight, he said. Tomorrow we find out exactly what they took from you. Clara placed one hand over her stomach. For the first time since her for the truth came in layers. First, Julian confirmed the pregnancy was viable. Then 2 weeks later, he confirmed there were 3 heartbeats. Clara lay on the exam table, her fingers twisted in the paper sheet, staring at the ultrasound screen while Julian went very still. Clara, he said. She heard the change in his voice. What is wrong? Nothing is wrong. He turned the monitor toward her. There are 3. For a moment, she did not understand. Then she saw them. 3 tiny flickers. 3 impossible answers to 11 years of being told her body was an empty room. Her hand flew to her mouth. Julian smiled, but his eyes were bright. Triplets, he said. It will be high risk. We will monitor everything closely. But they are there. Clara cried so hard Adrian heard from the hallway and nearly burst through the door. When Julian opened it, Adrian stood outside pale with panic. What happened? Clara laughed through tears. 3. Adrian gripped the doorframe. 3. Julian nodded. The old man sat down in the corridor like his knees had retired without notice. Then he began to laugh. It was not elegant. It was not restrained. It was the laugh of a man who had lost a brother, found a niece, and been given 3 new reasons to believe the world still knew how to apologize. From that day, Whitmore House changed. A nursery appeared in the east wing. Then 2 more cribs, because Adrian insisted each baby deserved room to negotiate with destiny. Julian became more careful than ever, tracking Clara's health with a seriousness that might have irritated another woman. Clara found it comforting. His care did not feel like control. It felt like attention. And attention, after 11 years in the Cross family, felt almost luxurious. Meanwhile, Clara learned what Evangeline had done. The family solicitor had hidden letters from Adrian's office after Clara's father died. Evangeline had discouraged Clara from asking about her father's estate, saying, "Grief makes people greedy if they are not careful." Nathaniel had signed documents confirming that Clara had no active claim to Whitmore assets, though he later claimed he thought it was just old paperwork. Clara read the copies in Adrian's study. Her hands did not shake. They had not merely rejected her. They had isolated her. Adrian watched from across the desk, his face carved in anger. "I can reopen every file," he said. "We can pursue them." Clara looked at the documents. Part of her wanted to burn Ashbourne Manor down to its foundations. But then one of the babies shifted inside her, a flutter like a secret knocking. "No," she said. "Not yet." Adrian frowned. "Clara, I need to give birth safely. I need time. I need them to believe I disappeared." Julian stood near the window, arms crossed. He understood before Adrian did. "You want them comfortable," he said. Clara looked at him. "I want them honest." Adrian's mouth curved slowly. "Your father used to say the same thing before ruining dishonest men at breakfast." Life became quiet after that. Not empty. Quiet. Clara spent mornings walking in the garden when her body allowed it. Afternoons reviewing her father's letters with Adrian. Evenings listening to Julian read medical journals aloud in language, so dry it made her laugh until he pretended offense. Somewhere between the second trimester and the first snowfall, Clara stopped thinking of Whitmore House as shelter. It became home. Julian never crossed a line. That mattered. He was her doctor first, then her friend, then something hand that lingered half a second too long. He saw her swollen ankles in fear. He saw her laugh at Adrian's terrible piano playing. He saw her wake from nightmares about the suitcase. He saw her sit in the nursery with both hands on her stomach, whispering to 3 children that they had been wanted before anyone knew their names. One evening, Clara found him in the library, staring at the fire. "You look worried," she said. "I am always worried." You are carrying 3 people and refusing to be dramatic about it. She smiled. Would drama help? Medically? No. Personally? It might make me feel less alone in my panic. She laughed. Julian looked at her then, and the laughter faded into a silence neither of them feared. His voice lowered. Clara, I need you to know something. I will never ask you for anything you are not ready to give. Her heart moved painfully. But, she whispered, but I am in love with you. The fire snapped softly. Clara looked away first, because the tenderness in his face was almost harder to bear than cruelty had been. Cruelty had rules. Tenderness asked her to believe she could be safe. I am still married, she said. Legally for now. Emotionally, I think you were abandoned on a doorstep. She smiled sadly. He stepped back, giving her space even in confession. I am not asking for an answer. I only did not want my silence to become another room you had to guess your way through. That was the moment Clara began to love him. Not because he said the words. After 5 the triplets were born during a storm. Noah arrived first, furious and loud, announcing himself like a judge. Oliver followed 4 minutes later, smaller, quieter, blinking as if unimpressed by the world's lighting. Lily came last, fierce enough to make the entire room hold its breath until her cry cut through the air. Clara sobbed when she heard all 3. Julian stood beside the medical team, no longer her doctor for the delivery because ethics had drawn a clear line once his feelings became known, but still present as family with Clara's permission. When Lily cried, his shoulders dropped as if he had been holding up the ceiling. Adrian was in the hallway, praying badly. When the nurse finally let him see them, he entered the recovery room with both hands pressed over his mouth. 3 bassinets stood beside Clara's bed. Noah James Whitmore. Oliver Edward Whitmore. Lily Rose Whitmore. Clara had given them her name. Not Cross. Whitmore. Adrian touched each bassinet with reverence. Edward would have lost his mind, he whispered. Clara, exhausted and pale, smiled. He would have bought 3 ponies. He would have bought 6. He had no discipline. Julian stood at the foot of the bed, watching her with such naked tenderness that Clara had to look away. The months that followed were a blur of feeding schedules, tiny socks, medical checkups, sleepless nights, and a kind of joy so demanding it left no room for self-pity. Clara learned the personalities of her children as if learning weather. Noah wanted everything first. Oliver watched before acting, then acted with terrifying precision. Lily trusted no one who moved too quickly and smiled only when she had decided the smile was earned. Adrian became Papa Adrian without anyone formally naming it. He carried babies through board calls. He bought absurdly expensive prams. He once arrived in the nursery wearing a tailored suit with mashed banana on his cuff and declared that dignity was overrated. Julian became the person Clara leaned toward without thinking. At first, she tried not to. She was afraid of needing again. Afraid that love was only a beautiful word for giving someone a map to your weakest places. But Julian did not rush. He did not replace Nathaniel, because Clara was not looking for a replacement. He became himself in her life, steady, observant, sometimes dry, always there. One night, when the triplets were 8 months old, Clara found him asleep in the nursery chair with Lily on his chest and Noah's sock stuck to his shoulder. Oliver slept in his crib with one hand wrapped around the wooden rail. Clara stood in the doorway. The old ache moved through her. Not grief for Nathaniel. Grief for the woman who had believed she deserved so little. Julian opened one eye. If you laugh, he murmured, I will prescribe you bed rest retroactively. Clara smiled. You have a sock on your shoulder. I am aware. It is a badge of office. Lily stirred. Julian's hand moved automatically to her back. Clara watched him. You love them, she said. His eyes met hers in the dim light. Yes. The answer was simple. No performance. No hesitation. No calculation about bloodlines, heirs, inheritance, appearances. Yes, he said again. And I love you. This time, Clara did not look away. I know, she whispered. He waited. She crossed the room, bent, and kissed him softly. Lily slept through it. Noah made a small offended noise from his crib, as if romance had interrupted his schedule. Julian laughed against Clara's mouth. That was how love returned to her life. Not with a rescue. Not with fireworks. With a sleeping baby, a sock on a shoulder, and her 6 Nathaniel Cross did not contact Clara for 18 months. Not once. No apology. No question. No message asking whether she was alive. His silence confirmed what Clara already knew. She had not been a wife to him at the end. She had been an inconvenience removed. Then the invitation arrived. By then, the triplets were walking, talking, and developing strong opinions about breakfast. Clara had finalized the divorce quietly through attorneys. Nathaniel signed quickly, eager to marry Brielle before her pregnancy became too visible. He did not ask why Clara requested no alimony. He did not ask why her legal team was stronger than expected. He did not ask why she wanted no contact. Men like Nathaniel mistook easy exits for victories. The wedding invitation proved he had been waiting for one final bow. Julian sat beside her, one ankle crossed over the other, his expression colder than she had ever seen it. Adrian lifted the second card. Try not to make a scene. That one is Evangeline, Clara said. Of course it is. Adrian removed his glasses. She always liked signing her poison. Julian looked at Clara. You do not have to go. I know. You owe them nothing. I know. Adrian studied her. But you want to. Clara looked toward the garden, where Noah was chasing Oliver with a wooden spoon, while Lily supervised from a bench. I want them to stop believing they wrote the ending. Julian leaned forward. Then we do it carefully. Adrian's mouth curved. No. We do it beautifully. Over the next week, Ashbourne Manor unknowingly prepared for its own trial. The Cross family invited 300 guests, aristocratic cousins, business partners, charity board members, old school friends, reporters from society magazines. Evangeline wanted a spectacle. She wanted Brielle photographed in ivory lace beneath the rose arch. She wanted Nathaniel restored as a man with a fertile bride and a future heir. More importantly, she wanted Clara present. Not for reconciliation. For contrast. She wanted Clara in the back row, quiet and empty-handed, forced to watch the new wife carry the child she had never produced. Clara let her believe it. Meanwhile, the Whitmore Foundation prepared its own guest list. Adrian contacted the estate solicitor handling Ashbourne Manor's debt. Mara Ellison, Clara's attorney, assembled the divorce timeline, medical records, pregnancy confirmation date, and proof that Clara had been removed from the marital home after conception, but before she could disclose the pregnancy. Julian requested permission from Clara to bring a sealed medical summary, verifying the diagnosis that cross-family doctors had missed for years. Severe endometriosis, treatable, mismanaged, and never Clara's fault. Clara arranged childcare, then changed her mind. No, she said one evening, watching the triplets build a tower from wooden blocks. They should come. Julian looked at her carefully. Are you sure? I will not hide them like a shameful secret. They are not revenge. They are people. They deserve to stand in daylight. Adrian nodded. Then they arrive as Whitmores. The morning of the wedding, a private jet waited at the small airstrip behind Whitmore House. Noah pressed his nose to the glass doors. Plane. Oliver corrected him. Jet. Lily lifted both arms toward Julian. Up. Julian picked her up immediately. Clara stood at the foot of the stairs, wearing a pale blue dress with clean lines, pearl earrings, and her father's signet ring on a chain around her neck. Her dark hair was pinned back softly. She looked elegant, calm, and unreachable in the way people become when they have survived being underestimated. Adrian entered in a dark suit, silver cane in hand, eyes bright. He stopped when he saw her. For a moment, he was not the head of the Whitmore Foundation or the man who owned half the debt in the county. He was only an uncle looking at his brother's daughter. Edward would be unbearable today, he said. Clara smiled. Because of the plane? Because of you. Her throat tightened. Julian came down the stairs with Lily in his arms, Noah gripping his trouser leg, Oliver carrying a toy car like a legal brief. You ready? He asked. Clara looked at the invitation on the hall table. Then she looked at her children. Yes, the manor had never looked more beautiful. That was the cruelty of old houses. They could host betrayal under roses and still appear innocent. White chairs lined the lawn. A string quartet played beneath the cedar trees. Champagne glittered on silver trays. Guests moved across the grass in linen, silk, and diamonds, speaking in low voices about Brielle's pregnancy and Nathaniel's second chance at happiness. At the front, beneath an arch of white roses, Nathaniel stood in a morning suit. He looked handsome. Clara noticed that first, and it no longer hurt. He had always been handsome in the way expensive things were handsome, polished, admired, and useless when warmth was required. Brielle stood near the house, surrounded by bridesmaids. Her ivory gown curved over her pregnant stomach. She kept one hand on it whenever cameras passed. Evangeline watched from the front row in dove-gray silk, pearls perfect, chin lifted. She came, a woman whispered. No one has seen her since the divorce. Poor thing. Why would she do this to herself? Evangeline heard and smiled. Then the sound came. Low at first. A distant engine cutting through the string music. Heads turned toward the private airfield beyond the west lawn. A white helicopter rose over the tree line and descended toward the open field beyond the rose garden. Its sides bore the silver crest of the Whitmore Foundation. The whispers changed. That is Whitmore. Adrian Whitmore? Why would Whitmore come to a cross wedding? Evangeline stood. Her smile vanished. Nathaniel turned from the arch, frowning. The helicopter touched down. Wind swept across the grass, lifting veils, rattling programs, sending rose petals across the aisle like scattered evidence. The door opened. Adrian Whitmore stepped out first, silver hair bright in the sun, one hand on his cane, posture calm enough to silence half the lawn. Then Julian stepped down, tall, dark-haired, holding Lily in one arm. Noah followed, helped by an assistant. Oliver came next, serious and careful. Then Clara appeared. For a moment, the entire wedding seemed to forget how to breathe. She did not look like the woman they had expected. No trembling ex-wife. No faded shadow. No barren failure invited to witness her replacement. Clara stepped onto the grass in pale blue, her face composed, her children gathering around her, Julian at her side and Adrian just behind her like a wall made of old money and older loyalty. Nathaniel went white. He did not recognize the children at first. Then Noah turned, impatient with the crowd, and his profile caught the light. The cross jaw. The same dark brows. The same gray-blue eyes Nathaniel had inherited from his father. Nathaniel took one step forward. Evangeline gripped the back of her chair. Brielle's bouquet trembled. Clara walked toward the ceremony aisle. The guests parted without being asked. Not out of kindness. Out of instinct. Power has a temperature. People feel it before they understand it. Nathaniel met her halfway across the lawn. Clara, he said. His voice cracked on her name. She stopped at a polite distance. Nathaniel. His eyes moved to the children. Noah stared back openly. Oliver hid half behind Julian's leg, but kept watching. Lily reached for Clara's hand. Nathaniel swallowed. Whose children are those? A murmur passed through the guests. Clara looked at him. Mine. His face tightened. Clara. She let the silence stretch. Then she said, and yours. The lawn went utterly still. Somewhere near the back, a glass slipped from someone's hand and broke in the grass. Brielle made a small sound. Evangeline stepped forward. That is impossible. Clara turned to her. The look was quiet, almost gentle. That made it worse. You used that word for 11 years, Clara said. You were wrong every time. Nathaniel stared at the children as if the ground had opened and shown him a life he had buried alive. No, he whispered. The doctors said. The doctors you chose said I was infertile. Clara's voice remained steady. They missed the endometriosis. Dr. Vale found it. He treated it. I conceived before you put my suitcase in the rain. Evangeline's face changed. Not guilt. Calculation. When? She demanded. Clara removed a folded document from her clutch. Mara Ellison stepped from behind Adrian, dressed in a navy suit, carrying a slim leather folder. The pregnancy was confirmed on November 14th, Mara said clearly. Mrs. Cross was removed from Ashbourne Manor the evening of November 14th. Divorce papers were placed on her suitcase before she was given any opportunity to disclose the pregnancy. The guests began whispering again, louder now. Nathaniel looked at Clara with horror dawning slowly across his face. You knew. I found out that morning. You should have told me. A flash of something moved through Clara's eyes. Not anger. A memory of rain. I came home to tell you, she said. Your mistress was wearing my robe. Brielle flinched. Evangeline turned on her. You said she had signed. Brielle's lips parted. You told me she knew. The sentence landed like a second explosion. Nathaniel looked from Brielle to his mother. What? Evangeline lifted her chin. This is not the place. Clara almost smiled. No, she said. This wedding had become a courtroom without walls. Guests stood frozen between rows of white chairs. The quartet had stopped playing. A photographer kept taking pictures until Evangeline snapped, "Stop that," and the man lowered the camera only after catching Clara's face in perfect calm. Nathaniel looked at the triplets again. How old are they? 18 months. His mouth opened, then closed. The math did what words could not. Evangeline stepped closer, pearls trembling against her throat. You had no right to hide crosshairs. Julian moved before Clara did. He stepped between Evangeline and the children, Lily still on his hip, his expression controlled but dangerous. "Careful," he said. Evangeline looked him up and down. "And you are?" "Dr. Julian Vale." A ripple passed through the crowd. Some knew the name. Vale Medical Institute. Whitmore Foundation. One of the most respected fertility specialists in Europe. Evangeline recognized it too. Her eyes narrowed. "The doctor?" "Yes. The man who took advantage of an abandoned woman." Julian's jaw tightened. Clara placed a hand lightly on his arm. She did not need him to fight this battle for her. "He was the doctor who diagnosed what your doctors ignored," she said. "He was also the man who stood outside the delivery room while your son's children fought to breathe." Nathaniel looked wounded, as if the pain of that image belonged to him. "Why did no one tell me?" Adrian laughed once. It was not loud. It was not kind. "Because you were busy replacing their mother." Nathaniel turned toward him. Adrian walked forward with the slow certainty of a man who had never needed to hurry to be obeyed. "You are Adrian Whitmore," Nathaniel said. "I am. What does this have to do with you?" Adrian looked at Clara, then back at him. "Clara is my niece." The guests stirred again. Evangeline's face went pale beneath her makeup. "No," she said. Adrian's eyes shifted to her. "Yes, Evangeline. Edward Whitmore's daughter. The girl you helped separate from her own inheritance. The woman you called lucky while living in a house mortgaged to her family." Brielle stared at Evangeline. Nathaniel whispered, "What is he talking about?" Mara opened the leather folder. "Ashbourne Manor's primary debt was purchased by the Whitmore Foundation 18 months ago," she said. "The Cross family was notified through counsel that the lender of record had changed. You did not ask who controlled the fund." Nathaniel looked as if he might be sick. Evangeline recovered first. "This is a private financial matter." Adrian's smile was thin. "So was throwing a pregnant woman out in the rain. Yet here we are, among friends." A few guests looked away. The social cruelty that had seemed entertaining 10 minutes earlier was becoming contagious. No one wanted it on their hands. Clara turned to Brielle. Brielle stood with one hand on her stomach, face tight, eyes wet. For the first time, she looked younger than her silk and diamonds. "You sent the note?" Clara asked. Brielle glanced at Nathaniel, then Evangeline. "No," she said. "I wrote the invitation list." "I did not write that line." Evangeline's lips compressed. Clara nodded. "Did you know I had not agreed to the divorce when you moved into my house?" Brielle's eyes flickered. That was answer enough. A murmur moved through the lawn. Brielle swallowed. "I was told the marriage had been dead for years." "It was dying," Clara said. "That is not the same as buried." Nathaniel flinched. Brielle's voice broke. "Evangeline said you were cruel to Nathaniel. That you refused adoption. That you wanted to punish him for wanting a family." Clara looked at Nathaniel. He did not deny it. Something in her went very still. "You told people I refused adoption?" His silence answered. Clara remembered the night she had brought up adoption after the 4th IVF failure. Nathaniel had gone quiet. Evangeline had called the next morning and said, "A cross child is born, not collected." Clara had cried in the laundry room so no one would hear her. Now Nathaniel stood before her, exposed and empty-handed. "I wanted a family," Clara said. "You wanted proof." The words struck harder than shouting. Noah tugged Clara's dress. "Mama, go home?" The small voice broke the spell. Nathaniel's face crumpled. He crouched instinctively, one hand reaching toward Noah. "Noah," Clara said softly. Noah stepped back against her leg. Nathaniel froze. The rejection was not dramatic. It was not cruel. It was simply natural. A child did not know the man reaching for him. That fact destroyed Nathaniel more thoroughly than any accusation. He stood slowly. "What are their names?" he asked. Clara hesitated. Then she answered, because the children were not secrets. "Noah James. Oliver Edward." Lily rose. Nathaniel closed his eyes at Edward. Evangeline whispered, "They should have crossed names." Clara turned. After 9, Brielle's father arrived late. That was the first sign the day was not finished. Charles Astor came across the lawn from the manor terrace, red-faced and breathing hard, followed by a man in a dark green suit whom no one recognized at first. Brielle recognized him. Her entire body changed. The hand on her stomach dropped. "Ethan," she whispered. Nathaniel turned. "Who is that?" The man stopped a few feet away from Brielle. He was not as polished as Nathaniel. His suit was good, but not old money good. His hair was wind-tossed, his face tense with the exhaustion of someone who had spent too long choosing silence and finally run out of it. "My name is Ethan Rowan," he said. Brielle's father cursed under his breath. Evangeline's eyes sharpened. This is not your concern. Ethan ignored her. He looked only at Brielle. I received the wedding announcement, he said. And then I received the message you never sent, because your father took your phone. Brielle's face drained. Charles Astor stepped forward. This man is unstable. Ethan reached into his jacket and removed a small envelope. I am not here to make a scene. I am here because I will not let my child be used to seal a business arrangement. The words landed like a blade. Nathaniel turned slowly toward Brielle. What child? Brielle's lips trembled. Evangeline gripped her pearls again. Charles snapped. Brielle, do not answer. That made the answer obvious. Mara, who had clearly begun to enjoy the efficiency of public truth, lifted one brow. Brielle looked at Clara then. Of all people, Clara. Maybe because Clara was the only woman on that lawn who knew what it meant to be turned into a vessel for someone else's plan. Brielle's shoulders dropped. The baby is Ethan's, she said. Nathaniel stared at her. The lawn erupted. Evangeline said, impossible. Clara almost laughed at the repetition. Brielle turned on Evangeline. Stop saying that when reality displeases you. For one bright second, Clara saw the woman Brielle might have been if she had not been raised to mistake status for safety. Brielle faced Nathaniel. I am sorry, she said. Not because I loved you and failed. Because I never loved you at all. I let your mother and my father turn me into a solution. I told myself you wanted the same thing, so it did not matter. But it mattered. Nathaniel looked beyond speech. Ethan stepped closer, not touching her. I asked you to leave before this. I was afraid. I know. Charles Astor barked. Brielle, think carefully. This marriage protects your future. Brielle turned to him with tears on her face. No. It protects yours. Then she looked at Clara. I knew you had been hurt, she said. I did not know about the pregnancy. I did not know about the children. But I knew enough to know I should not have walked into your house that night. I am sorry. Clara studied her. The apology was late. It did not undo the robe, the smile, the invitation, the humiliation. But it was the first honest thing Brielle had said all day. I hope you become better than this, Clara said. Brielle nodded, crying silently. Nathaniel gave a hollow laugh. So everyone lied to me. Clara looked at him. No, Nathaniel. Everyone told you the lies you wanted, because you rewarded them for it. He flinched. Evangeline reached for him. My son. He stepped away from her. That was when Evangeline finally understood the scale of the ruin. She had arranged a wedding to restore the Cross family line. Instead, she had exposed that the real heirs had arrived with another name. The bride's child belonged to another man, and the estate itself stood under the control of the woman she had discarded. Nathaniel looked at the rose arch, then at Brielle, then at Clara's children. His wedding had become a map of everything he had officially. No vows were spoken. No rings exchanged. No kiss beneath the roses. But something ended anyway. Guests drifted into clusters, whispering behind hands, pretending not to stare while staring openly. The society reporter, who had been invited to photograph Brielle's triumphant entrance, now stood near the champagne table typing fast enough to bruise the screen. Evangeline tried to regain control. This is a family matter, she said to the nearest guests. Please enjoy the refreshments while we address a private misunderstanding. Adrian looked at her. Evangeline, the refreshments are being served on property under active debt review. I would speak less confidently. Her mouth snapped shut. Nathaniel walked toward Clara. Julian moved, but Clara shook her head. She could face him now. Nathaniel stopped 3 feet away, close enough for her to see the red around his eyes. I did not know, he said. Clara answered calmly. You did not ask. I would have come. That is not the comfort you think it is. His brow furrowed. She looked past him to the manor windows, remembering rain on stone, the suitcase handle slick in her hand, the warmth behind the glass that no longer belonged to her. If I had shown you the report that night, she said, you would have come because I was useful again. Because I could give you what you wanted. Not because you saw me. That is not fair. No, Clara said. What was not fair was 11 years of making me apologize for a medical condition no one bothered to diagnose. What was not fair was letting your mother treat my body like a failed investment. What was not fair was putting my life outside in the rain and calling it clean timing. Nathaniel's mouth tightened. You think I do not regret it? I believe you regret the result. He looked at the children. Noah was now sitting on the grass, removing his shoes. Oliver was lining up fallen rose petals. Lily had convinced Julian to hold both her and her doll, which he did with impressive seriousness. They are mine, Nathaniel whispered. They are children, Clara said. Not trophies. Not proof. Not a second chance you can claim because the first one embarrassed you. He looked back at her. I have rights. Mara stepped closer. Clara did not. Yes, Clara said. And if you pursue them, you will do so through court, with the full timeline entered into record. The suitcase. The mistress. The divorce papers. The medical neglect. The 18 months of silence. Your mother's note. All of it. Nathaniel's face hardened. So this is punishment. No. This is protection. From me? Clara's eyes softened, but not enough to open a door. From the version of you that still thinks your pain should rearrange everyone else's life. He looked as if she had struck him. For a moment, she saw the young man she had loved at 26. Charming, uncertain, desperate to be admired by a mother who made love conditional. She had spent years trying to heal that boy by letting the man hurt her. She would not make that mistake again. Nathaniel's voice dropped. Can I meet them? Clara looked at the children, then at Julian, then back at Nathaniel. Not today. His jaw worked. Clara, not at your failed wedding. Not while your mother is measuring them for legacy. Not while cameras are still pointed at the lawn. If you want to begin, you begin properly, legally, and humbly. They are not here to comfort you. He closed his eyes. She saw him swallow anger, grief, humiliation. For once, none of it became her assignment. Behind them, Brielle left with Ethan. Charles Astor shouted once, then stopped when Adrian's attorney quietly mentioned breach of contract. Brielle did not turn back. Evangeline watched her go, then looked at the guests, the empty arch, the children in the grass, and finally at Clara. You planned this, she said. Clara smiled faintly. Before sunset. Heiress returns to ex-husband's wedding with triplets and ends cross ceremony. By midnight, the story had become something larger, messier, and far less controlled than Evangeline could survive. Society pages loved the helicopter. Financial blogs loved the Whitmore debt angle. Parenting forums loved the triplets. No one loved Evangeline. The note printed on the invitation leaked by morning. Come watch the woman who gave me a child take your place. Try not to make a scene. People read it once and understood exactly what kind of scene had deserved to happen. Clara did not give interviews. She returned to Whitmore House, bathed the children, read 3 bedtime stories, and cried quietly in the hallway after Noah fell asleep with one hand wrapped around her finger. Julian found her there. He did not ask if she was all right. He sat beside her on the floor. For a while, they listened to the soft hum of the nursery monitor. I thought I would feel satisfied, Clara whispered. Do you? Yes. She wiped her cheek. But not only that. What else? Sad. Julian nodded. That makes sense. She looked at him. He took her hand. You did not win something small today. You buried something large. Even if it deserved to die, grief still attends the funeral. Clara leaned her head against his shoulder. I loved him once. I know. I hate that I did. I do not, Julian said. She lifted her head. He looked toward the nursery door. The part of you that loved him is the same part that kept going for them. It was never weakness. He was careless with it. That is on him. Clara closed her eyes. For years, Evangeline had taught her that love without results was failure. Nathaniel had taught her that loyalty without fertility was insufficient. Brielle had taught her that replacement could wear perfume and smile. Julian was teaching her something quieter. That love could exist without debt. A week later, Nathaniel filed a petition to establish paternity and visitation. Mara had predicted it. He will not be able to resist, she said. But the court will move slowly, and the record matters. Clara agreed to DNA testing, because truth did not frighten her anymore. The results confirmed what everyone already knew. Nathaniel was the biological father of Noah, Oliver, and Lily. Evangeline sent one message through counsel requesting immediate introduction to the cross heirs. Mara replied with 5 words. There are no cross heirs. Then she added the legal names of all 3 children. Whitmore. Nathaniel's request moved into supervised proceedings. The court reviewed the timeline. The judge did not enjoy the invitation. He enjoyed Evangeline's handwritten note even less. Visitation, if granted later, would begin with therapeutic supervision. Nathaniel objected. The judge asked whether he believed a wedding lawn was an appropriate first contact with 3 toddlers he had never acknowledged. Nathaniel stopped objecting. Meanwhile, Ashbourne Manor entered formal debt restructuring. Adrian did not evict them immediately. That would have been satisfying, but satisfaction was not strategy. Instead, The Whitmore Foundation required transparency, asset disclosures, and board oversight of the Cross Estate Trust. Evangeline called it theft. Adrian called it accounting. Brielle disappeared from society for several months. Later, Clara heard she and Ethan had moved to Bath, where he opened an architecture studio, and she gave birth to a daughter. Brielle sent one letter after the baby arrived. Clara opened it while sitting in the garden. The letter was short. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am only writing because I understand now that being chosen at another woman's expense is not love. It is a warning. I hope your children grow up never mistaking performance for devotion. Clara folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. She did not reply. Some apologies were real, and still for the first time in a child therapist's office with pale yellow walls and too many wooden puzzles. He wore a navy suit. Mara told him not to. He wore it anyway, then looked immediately out of place, sitting on a tiny chair across from 3 toddlers who cared nothing for tailoring. Clara sat near the window. Julian waited outside by agreement. The therapist, Dr. Rowan, sat on the rug. Nathaniel looked nervous. That helped. Noah approached first, because Noah approached everything first. Are you Nathaniel? He asked. Nathaniel's face twisted at hearing his name from his son's mouth. Yes. Noah considered him. I am Noah. I know. Noah frowned. You know me? Nathaniel swallowed. I am learning. That answer, at least, was honest. Oliver stayed close to Clara, watching. Lily ignored Nathaniel entirely and built a tower from blocks, then knocked it down with regal indifference. The meeting lasted 30 minutes. No miracles happened. No one ran into Nathaniel's arms. No music swelled. No wound closed because biology entered the room. But Nathaniel listened. When Noah showed him a toy car, Nathaniel did not say my son. He said, that is a fast car. When Oliver whispered that he liked blue blocks, Nathaniel found one and handed it to him without demanding a smile. When Lily refused to look at him, he did not force it. Afterward, in the hallway, Nathaniel looked at Clara. Thank you, he said. She studied him. It was the first clean thank you he had given her in years. You are welcome. He looked older. Not ruined. Not redeemed. Just older. I am sorry, he said. Clara had imagined those words for a long time. In her imagination, they had power. They opened doors, rewrote endings, restored dignity. In reality, they were only words. Necessary. Late. Not enough. I believe you, she said. His eyes filled. But sorry is not a bridge by itself, she continued. It is a brick. What you build with it is your work. He nodded slowly. For once, he did not ask her to help him carry it. Months passed. Nathaniel attended supervised visits, then longer ones. He missed one because Evangeline had a crisis and learned quickly that court orders did not bend around his mother's moods. He apologized. He rescheduled. He improved unevenly, which was the only believable way people improved. Evangeline never met the children. Not because Clara sought revenge, but because Evangeline could not stop using the word heirs in legal correspondence. The judge noticed. So did Nathaniel. One afternoon, after a supervised visit, he told Clara, Mother wants to see them. Clara waited. He looked down. I told her no. That, more than his apology, surprised her. He gave a small, bitter smile. I know. It took me 38 years. Clara said nothing. He looked through the observation room window, where Noah was making Oliver laugh and Lily was trying to steal both their snacks. I do not deserve them, Nathaniel said. No, Clara replied. You do not. Children are not rewards for deserving adults. He nodded. But you can still become safe enough to know them. He looked at her then. There was no romance in the moment. No longing. No old door opening. Only 2 people standing on opposite sides of damage, acknowledging that 13 Julian proposed on an ordinary morning. No helicopter. No audience. No revenge. Clara was in the kitchen wearing one of his sweaters, hair loose, trying to convince Lily that blueberries were not a form of political oppression. Noah was under the table looking for a missing spoon. Oliver sat in his chair sorting cereal by size. Julian came in carrying coffee and a small velvet box. Clara stared at it. Here, she asked. He looked around. Is there a better place? Noah is under the table. I asked his permission. Noah's voice came from below. I said maybe. Julian nodded solemnly. A cautious blessing. Clara laughed. Then she cried. Julian set down the coffee and opened the box. The ring was not enormous. It was an antique sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, elegant and deep blue, like something with history but no need to shout. I could make a speech, he said. But you know I would over-edit it and ruin the moment. That sounds likely. He smiled, nervous in a way she rarely saw. So I will say this plainly. Clara Whitmore, I love the life we have built. I love your strength, but I do not love you because you are strong. I love your softness too. I love the days when you are tired. I love your terrible singing voice. I love that you negotiate with toddlers like they are heads of state. I love Noah, Oliver, and Lily as they are, not because of what they make me to you. I am not asking to rescue you. I am asking to stay. Clara covered her mouth. Julian knelt. Noah crawled out from under the table with the missing spoon. Are you stuck? Oliver said, he is asking. Lily held up a blueberry. No, Clara laughed through tears. Yes, she said. Julian blinked. Yes. Yes. Noah clapped because everyone else seemed pleased. Oliver nodded as if the paperwork had been properly filed. Lily ate the blueberry after all. They married in spring at Whitmore House. Not at Ashbourne Manor. Never there. The ceremony was small, filled only with people who had earned the right to witness peace. Adrian walked Clara down the garden path with tears in his eyes and 3 toddlers scattering petals in completely different directions. Nathaniel did not attend. He sent a letter through Mara. I will not intrude. I only want to say I am glad the children are loved. Clara read it once. Then she placed it in the file where she kept evidence that people could become less harmful when consequences arrived early enough. The vows were simple. Julian promised to tell the truth gently and quickly. Clara promised not to mistake peace for something she had to earn. Adrian cried openly enough that Lily patted his cheek and said, Papa sad? No, darling, he said. Papa is full. At the reception, Clara danced with Julian beneath strings of garden lights while the children ran circles around them. For a moment, she saw herself as she had been on that rainy night, suitcase in hand, pregnancy report hidden in her coat, walking away from a house that had never truly held her. She wished she could go back and tell that woman one thing. Not that revenge was coming. Not that wealth was waiting. Not even that love would return. She would tell her that leaving without begging was the first act of motherhood her children ever witnessed. Years later, people still told the story badly. They made it sharper, shinier, simpler. They said Clara arrived at her ex-husband's wedding with triplets and destroyed him. They said she took the manor. They said the mistress ran away. They said the mother-in-law never recovered socially, which was true enough but not the point. People loved the spectacle because spectacle was easy to understand. Helicopter. Triplets. Wedding ruined. Old money exposed. Mistress pregnant by another man. But Clara knew the real story was quieter. It was a woman choosing not to pull a pregnancy report from her pocket in the rain, because she finally understood that love begged for under threat was not love. It was an old man stopping his car for a stranger and finding his brother's daughter. It was a doctor diagnosing a condition everyone else had dismissed as weakness. It was 3 children learning that family was not the name on a gate, but the hands that reached for them when they cried. It was Nathaniel sitting in a child therapist's office, learning to build blocks instead of legacy. It was Evangeline growing old in smaller rooms because control had cost more than humility would have. It was Brielle writing one honest letter and then choosing a life that was not arranged like furniture. It was Clara standing in her own kitchen years later, watching Noah read to Lily while Oliver corrected both of them, and realizing she no longer measured happiness by who regretted losing her. That was freedom. Not being envied. Not being vindicated. Not being photographed stepping out of a helicopter. Freedom was the morning she forgot to wonder what Nathaniel thought. On the 5th anniversary of the wedding that never happened, Clara visited Ashbourne Manor one last time. The Whitmore Foundation had converted part of the estate into a women's legal and medical support center. The rose lawn remained, but the arch was gone. In its place stood a stone bench engraved with one sentence. No one should have to prove their pain to be believed. Clara stood before it with Julian beside her. Noah, Oliver, and Lily raced across the grass, older now, loud and bright, and entirely uninterested in the ghosts beneath their feet. Adrian sat beneath a cedar tree, watching them with a smile that carried both joy and grief. Clara looked at the manor windows. Once, she had stood outside them in the rain, believing she had been thrown away from her life. Now women would walk through those doors to reclaim theirs. Julian took her hand. "Are you all right?" he asked. Clara watched Lily chase her brothers across the lawn. "Yes," she said, and she meant it, not because nothing had happened, because what happened no longer owned the ending. The woman Nathaniel invited to humiliate had not returned to prove she was worthy. She had returned because she had finally stopped letting cruel people define worth at all. The house was no longer a monument to the family that rejected her. It was a doorway, and Clara Whitmore had learned the deepest kind of revenge was not making them watch her rise. It was rising so fully that watching no longer mattered. Thanks to strength, hidden truth, and the moment a woman finally stops begging to be chosen.